Well, Hasluck is quite a large electorate just northeast of Perth, and the redistribution of Western Australia's electoral seats saw the seat of Hasluck lose a lot of its urban areas, but gain a lot in terms of its rural and semi-rural areas. What that means here is that many of the voters live in bushfire-prone or bushfire-affected areas, and at the beginning of last year, the Wooroloo bushfire tore through the city of Swan and the Shire of Mundaring, which are inside this seat of Hasluck. And so for those people who live in or near bushfire-prone and affected areas, climate change is, of course, top of mind. Now, here in Ellenbrook, which is a rapidly growing urban centre, which is on the cusp of that Wooroloo bushfire at the beginning of last year, voters still remember the ash falling from the sky and the smoke billowing in the background. And so that memory most definitely played a part in swinging the vote away from Liberal MP Ken Wyatt. What we saw was a 12% swing in favour of Labor's Tanya Lawrence, who was able to take the seat off of the Liberals for the first time since 2010. But climate change isn't the only significant factor at play here in Western Australia. There are also a lot of local dynamics at play. Western Australia saw a trend of rejection for the Liberal Party. The Liberals lost 4 seats to the Labor Party, including the seat of Tangney, which wasn't even really in sight. Neither Anthony Albanese nor Scott Morrison visited the seat of Tangney even once throughout their federal election campaigns.
This is a really interesting trend, isn't it? Because in WA, we've seen that very, very strong performance by Mark McGowan for the Labor Party at the last state election. And there've been mixed reports about whether that was effective in translating to a Labor win for the Labor Party in WA, whether that halo effect from Mark McGowan could translate to Anthony Albanese. It seems to have translated a lot more than a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah, well, in Western Australia, we saw the biggest swing away from the Liberal Party in the entire country, and which is quite unprecedented because the Liberals traditionally have performed very well in WA at the federal level. And so there were a lot of local dynamics at play that influenced that. Now, West Australians were told for months that this election wasn't about the WA Premier Mark McGowan, but Mr McGowan at the last state election here in WA won a historic landslide victory. And perhaps what we saw was that play out at the polling booths yesterday. Perhaps what we're seeing is state politics playing out at a federal level. Now, Mr McGowan's popularity isn't at the all-time highs that he enjoyed when he won that state election, but he is still overwhelmingly popular here in WA, despite recent issues in the health system here in the state, and despite the heavy hand that he played in managing the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr McGowan is still overwhelmingly popular here in WA, and no doubt that has definitely contributed to the collapse of the Liberal vote here in Western Australia. Now, Labor was able to hit all 3 targets, including the seat of Pearce, which saw a 15% swing for Labor. And in the seat of Swan, we saw about a 13% swing. Again, in Hasluck, around a 12% swing in favour of Labor. These were the key seats that Labor was targeting and that they were able to take. But not only those 3 seats, Labor was also able to take the seat of Tangney away from the Liberals, which again wasn't even in sight. Liberal MP Ben Morton held the seat of Tangney with about a 10% margin, but Labor challenger Sam Lim was able to come in and swing that 13% in favour of Labor. So what we're seeing is not only support for the WA Labor Party at a state level, translating to the federal level, but also a rejection of the Liberal Party here in WA.
Kason Ho reporting from Hasluck in Perth. Kason, thanks so much for joining us very early in the morning. It's only just gone, what, 20 to 6?
Well, the birds were waking
Perth time.
up, though.
Yeah, but Kason's raring to go after a big night. Kason, thank you.